This program is powered by AIM Employers Association and Ogletree Deacons, a Feature Group USA production.
Hello, everybody. I'm Phil Brandt, President and CEO of AIM Employers Association. According to McKinsey, about by 2030, 30% of the U.S. jobs could be automated. Let that sink in. McKinsey, by 2030, 30% of U.S. jobs could be automated. But is that going to be enough? Today, we ask, can AI bridge the birth gap? Get ready. I'm about to get fired up on This Week at Work.
Welcome to This Week at Work, the only show to pack workplace news, practical HR solutions, and timely insights into every 30-minute episode.
We have a lot of white-collar jobs that are getting ready to flood the market with people then who don't have the skill. And we've seen it in the blue-collar segment for years and years and years with automation.
Yep.
We could have white-collar job dump, and we can still and will have blue-collar job dump. And when that happens, we might be in trouble.
Yeah, we might be.
Not everybody has the ability to have mechanical aptitude. Not everybody has the ability to have executive function. The bet is AI is going to help with this. Can AI fill the gap, or will it create a wider gap? As employers, what's our duty in that?
What's keeping you up at night? Let's face it together now on This Week at Work.
All right. Good morning, Bert. I tell you what, man, I just got back from a CEO conference out in Colorado, and I'm blown away. I'm blown away. I know you and I have been talking about the impact of jobs and the lack of people and the slowing of the birth rate and people entering the workforce and less people entering universities, and where's all the talent going to come from? And this is something, I've frankly been talking about for 5 or 6 years. Pre-COVID was the first time I started using my famous chart that people love to poke at me about. And after this conference, I don't know if AI is going to be able to keep up, outpace, but we are up for some changing times.
Yeah, it sounds like you saw and were exposed to some shocking examples of AI and some shocking predictions about AI. And I'm looking forward to talking about today. I had taken the position for a long time that I did think that AI was going to step in and fill that gap of the lower birth rate and the lower number of people working in the workforce. But I was of the opinion that AI was not going to actually displace people. It was going to make up for that gap, and that what was going to happen is that instead of being displaced, people who don't know how to use AI are going to lose their jobs, but people who know how to use AI are not going to get displaced. And I'm coming around more and more to the school of thought that it's going to be broader than that. People who know how to use AI, they still might get displaced. And I think that, one of the topics I'm going to talk about today is a law relating to immigration, a big change in the immigration laws. I'll talk about that during Lawyer on the Clock. But, we may not need all of the foreign workers in a few years based on what you might have seen just this week. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, Phil?
Yeah, I tell you, I'm not quite sure what I believe is going to happen at this point. I was pretty confident over our last few episodes of things, and it's when you get a new data point, you go, oh my goodness, what is happening now? I get it. I would be considered probably an early adapter, and I get paid to watch the future, to predict this, to help lead our community of employers to a space. And it's amazing when we look at the rate of technology. And I don't think we're talking about those who use AI. This is a different mindset, and this is why I get excited and concerned at the same time. So don't misinterpret any of my message. It's an exciting period of time. It's a concerning period of time. But I don't think it's going to be for those of us who know how to use AI. I think AI is going to be so prevalent, everybody will know how to use AI. And that's what makes it absolutely frightening and exciting because it's not going to be like Excel, where some people don't think systematically like Excel is designed to work and format the formulas and sometimes you got to even understand a higher level of math formula in order to make Excel work and do fancy things. This is just going to be about if you can communicate, you'll be efficient in AI because AI is going to do the work and thinking for you. And that's where you talk about, is it going to dumb us down in our cognitive thinking? I can't even comment on that. But I'm telling you, we are right at the edge of seeing things cut loose, things that we've been talking about and getting ready to invest here at AIM, dreaming about for our members and how things would benefit our members. It's all of a sudden readily available and we just don't know it yet. It's already there. It's already developed. It's already being deployed. And it's happening in such small places so quietly we don't know it, and it's just going to turn on. And when that happens, I think people are going to go, wow. And one of my concerns is I just don't know that people see it and believe it. It's a little bit like managing our health. We know it's important to manage our health. We know there's this thing called heart disease, and if we eat poorly and don't exercise and take care of ourselves, it's the number one killer and will maybe most likely statistically kill more people than anything else. But most of us don't eat right and most of us don't exercise the right way. And with that, we kind of ignore it. I think that's what's happening. We just turn a blind eye. We think, these are all wild, crazy predictions. And I'm asking the people that watch this show to jump in and learn all they can about it because it's an exciting, transitional, scary time and point in history.
So what'd you see, Phil, at your program that you went to? What's got you excited and what's got you scared?
Yeah, so we've been talking at AIM about the ability to develop assistance, right? Like, can you use Chat GPT or Grok or any of these as, an assistant? And I tell people and they laugh, that I spend, I get an hour a day. The limit that I pay for gives me an hour a day of, let's just call it verbal conversation with an AI. And I use that hour pretty much every day talking and discussing things that with an AI that I'm not familiar with, that I'm learning about, maybe in place of like reading a book on things. So just exploratory discussions on topics I don't know. And the idea that these assistants and these knowledge banks are going to be available to help business leaders run their business and therefore need less people. In essence, that's the storyline. Seeing that these assistants are there now, they're developed and they're efficient and effective. And I've talked to people who are using them and people who are selling them, these startups that are there, and it's real. And seeing that made me go, holy cow, it's here. We just don't know it. It's kind of like your shores have been breached by the enemy, if you want to call it that. I don't, but you just don't believe it because we're in the Midwest and we don't see it. But it's there. And so, AI assistant, somebody that we hear about every person will have kind of a personal coach, an assistant in life, guiding them and communicating and directing them in life with superior knowledge to any one human being that exists. It already exists, and it's going to increase at massive rates. And so I just look at that, and it's go in any direction you want to go, and you'll be an expert. It just be what kind of enthusiasm do you have that you want to, pursue? What's your personal drive to pursue that?
Yeah, interesting and scary all at the same time. I don't know about when we're going to get there. I wasn't at the program that you attended this week, but I know in the legal profession, AI is becoming more and more prevalent. I was at a lunch with a former colleague of mine yesterday, and their firm has not quite yet embraced AI, and he said that there's really an age gap that exists between those who are using AI and those who are not using it. And I think it gets back to this chart you've been talking about, Phil, that the workforce, there is going to be an exodus of talent in the next decade or so, and there doesn't seem to be as much of a backfill to that talent pool, but I think AI is going to make up that gap.
Yeah. You know what, Bert? We're gonna have too many people. Now
Yeah.
now you slap
Now
me in
you've
the head
really come
right now
around.
for me saying that
Yeah.
because you've never heard me say that before.
Nope. I finally got you.
I am 100% confident we're gonna have too many people, and not enough for those people to do. And it's absolutely astonishing when you start to absorb it and take it in. And for me, I find it very difficult to explain and express. But many of the things that we all do, particularly in a white collar world. And there's, lots of us, and not everyone wants to work in a blue collar job, and not all of us have mechanical aptitudes to work in those types of roles. And not all of us want to work every day on a job site somewhere. We want to work from home or the conveniences of what we do and how we work. And there's very, very much a lifestyle difference between those types of roles and a white collar job role. And that culture clash with the age gap and clash is really going to be quite interesting.
Well, I know, we sort of remember, it's crazy because it hasn't been that long. I mean, do you remember when you got your first smartphone?
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that was what, early to
Hey, I just
mid.
got the new iPhone 17. I'm with you. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but the smartphone hasn't been around that long. I mean, it's really been since the early to mid 2000s. I think the Blackberries, if you remember those, were
I
with the
had one of those
keyboard
too on my Palm
and
Pilot.
yeah, that was around the 2000s area, 2002, and then I think the first smartphones really started to come out about the 2006, 2007 era, and so we're only talking about roughly 15 to 20 years that smartphones have been out there, and they really didn't come into their own until probably closer to the 2010 area. So we're talking about 15 years, and think of how that technology's been adapted. And before that, it was the internet era. And in the white collar sector, administrative support roles definitely shrank with the introduction of the internet. Middle management got leaner. Retail and advertising professions were disrupted. On the blue collar side, retail and warehouse work also began to shift. Manufacturing supply chains were digitized. There was job loss from offshoring that was enabled, frankly, by the communication of the internet. So, the internet disrupted over probably the course of a decade. I think AI is doing that in way less time than a decade.
It was interesting in how it was explained to me, not to me, but to the audience of CEOs I was working with. They just went through that same chart, and I will have all this data available to me for some upcoming episodes, and I'll be happy to share it then. But it talked about the manufacturing production line and the adoption rate and the slow curve of growth, but at the time was a massive growth, right? And just as you said, the internet and the phone, and they're talking about AI, the growth rate, it's our first I curve, meaning it's not a bell curve shape, it goes straight up. And and it called it an I curve, which I've never heard that before. And it made sense when you look at it and you look at the adoption rate of technologies like ChatGPT and Gemini and these types of tools that are out there. And I agree with you. It is going to displace. I do remember the days, and we think about it in hindsight, where every professional had a secretary,
Yep.
right?
Well, and what about a receptionist? I
And a
mean,
receptionist,
yeah.
yeah. And speaking of that, so I needed to schedule a meeting with these presenters that I wanted to meet with. Um, I've not had anyone tell me this before. They said, "Oh, here," and you kind of scan their phone and just schedule whatever you want with their AI assistant, right? So I said, "Oh, well, that's great. I'm going to have my human assistant, Debbie, work with your technology AI assistant to schedule the meeting." And this isn't like Calendarly. This is like an assistant that leads you through your day, your week, your month, your year, just like a human does to help you stay on task and help you organize and do and book this reservation and do this and schedule 30 minutes with Bart Garland for me. And that's all you got to say. And it knows and it goes out and does it. It understands your personal framework versus your business framework and how to manage. It's not just a calendar. It's absolutely very cool and very frightening.
Bill, where do you think AI can help address some of the labor gaps?
Yeah, I do think it's going to address the gaps as it relates to the retirement of, the baby boomers who are leaving the workforce. I mean, it's still at a rate of like 10,000 a day are still retiring from the workforce. That's a huge amount of people that are leaving with experience. And I think as we can quickly adapt to that, we'll be able to offset that. I think the other part of that with the labor gap that exists today is this gives us a chance to start the reskilling process while it's in place. And that's going to be difficult, right? Because it's what my day job versus my reskilling job. But reskilling should be part of our job. And that's what I'm going to start, communicating with our roundtable groups is what are you doing to reskill the talent that you have? And it's almost a human responsibility as a business as much as it is a workplace responsibility to have people prepared for the work that's going to be in front of us for the next couple of years, recognizing that that transition is going to happen at a rapid pace. I mean, McKinsey is not a small firm.
No.
These are some of the smartest people in the world in their business. And when they tell you 30% of the workforce, I mean, they're putting a reputation online when they tell you 30% of your workforce be replaced by AI by 2030.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right, well,
yeah,
we're on the heels of 2026. In 4 years, in a few months, 30% of your workforce. Now, go into your strategy meeting with that number and start planning and say 30% of our workforce will be replaced with AI.
what fields do you think are going to be safe from some of this?
Yeah, I think when you look at the fields of accounting, purchasing, planning, scheduling, HR, legal, the distribution. These are things that have sequential decision-making processes, if-then type jobs that are easy to automate. And then for the leaders of those functions, the top leaders of those functions, not the doers, right? So if you think most of our audience can relate to the HR industry, and we have people anyone that's sitting at a computer all day doing things, that's the visual. If someone's sitting at a computer and they're doing, that will be the first group of people to be displaced because all of that is kind of sequential. You can policy it, you can outline it, you can perform it, and then from that standpoint, AI can simulate it and then do it for you, and then it can make basic, I won't say basic, but it can make decisions based on logic and not emotions. And we as humans, still, the majority of our time, we make emotional decisions. Yeah, but they're a good person. Yeah, but they've tried hard. Yeah. And that's what scares me because I love the human element of this, but I think it displaces that human logic early on until it can emulate that. And I don't know that I ever want to see that day come.
Yeah, so you've kind of given some of the industries that you or fields where you think that AI is really going to make a quick impact. What about those that that it may not be quite as rapid? I mean, I think that automation in the manufacturing and warehousing sector, we've sort of already seen a lot of the impact of that because that takes AI a step further. It requires robotics.
Yeah.
I think healthcare, sure, certain aspects of healthcare when you have people who are in front of the computers, processing paperwork and sort of the if-then decisions in healthcare, uh, those people might be displaced. But I think anytime you're talking about hands-on care, we're still a ways away from that. You think of like people who are working in nursing homes and hospitals that have to actually take care of patients. I think it's going to still be a while for that. You
I
know,
think it will be too, but there will be jobs in those industries. I think about, most of my experience is in manufacturing, and you look at manufacturing and you say, okay, there are hands-on skills that are needed, and
right.
not every role in manufacturing environment is a hands-on skill, right? You have people who run tools, people who call them runners or gophers or whatever you want to call them. Like my job is to keep this bin replenished, right? The light goes on because the bin is running low. So I have to run to the tool area, grab these pieces, replenish that so that the line keeps running. A human is not going to do that in the future, right?
Sure.
Those types of jobs, those entry level jobs that exist, go away. Now there will be the mechanical aptitude to do that, but that job doesn't require mechanical aptitude.
Right.
So I do think there's even going to be an impact there, just not as much of an impact as fast and white as it will be white collar.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think,
Yeah.
again, it sort of boils down to the hands-on type jobs versus the if-then type jobs. Now, there are a lot of those if-then type jobs, though, that require what I would consider to be outside the box thinking. And if you have AI playing a chess match against AI, AI, I think, is going to be a little bit more uh, uh, linear in its thinking. You may not get some of the off the wall approaches that a human might come up with. So I do think, like, even in the legal profession, you can't be prepared for everything that's going to get thrown at you. You can't be prepared for the unpredictability of humans. And I think that as long as you have unpredictability on one side, you're going to need unpredictability on the other side to be able to react and deal with all of that.
Yeah, I agree. Producer Nick, are you wanting to show a video here?
There is a video that that good old Bert sent over that I think he wants to show. You want to tell us what's
Are
going
those
on
two
here?
not politically aligned? What's going on here? Is one of those a Democrat and one a Republican? Is that the behavior that AI is going to demonstrate for us?
Phil, it's just an example there. I sent this video to Nick previously, and it's a robot, a leaked video of a robot in China that wasn't an AI robot that wasn't necessarily obeying its programmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's at about 15 seconds in. He just kind of goes haywire.
Yeah, that's part of the scary part, right? And that's accident. When that happens by program, that's going to really be frightening. Bert, what about Laura and the Clock? You got some things you want to chat about today?
I do. There's so much going on, Phil. It's
All
hard
right,
to
Nick,
even
pull that
restrain
lever. Let's
myself.
get going. Yeah.
Curious about a case that could wreck your workplace? Lucky for you, we have a lawyer on the clock.
All right. So unless you've been living under a rock these last few days, most people are aware that on September 19th, the Trump administration issued a presidential proclamation imposing new restrictions on H-1B visa holders seeking to enter the U.S. Now,
That's big news.
the United States Customs and Immigration Service and Customs and Border Patrol did have to issue some immediate guidance the very next day. And then the State Department also issued some guidance on September 21. So I think that was what, Saturday and Sunday. But the changes really do reflect the Trump administration's stated goal to prevent misuse of the H-1B visa program. So under this proclamation that became effective at 12:01 a.m. on September 21 and continuing for 1 year, any new H-1B petition filed on or after the effective time must be accompanied by a $100,000 payment.
Yeah.
So this requirement applies to all new H-1B petition filings. These are the H-1Bs that employers use to bring in, theoretically, they're supposed to be using this to bring in talent where talent gaps exist in the United States workforce. And so, Phil,
Right.
I think we're bringing it kind of full circle to the whole AI piece here because a lot of companies use the H-1B program to fill talent gaps in technology fields. A
Yeah.
lot of the if-then type sequencing jobs that we've been talking about. And so
Sure.
I do think that this does kind of reflect, number one, the Trump administration's goal of keeping foreign workers out of the workplace and keeping wages up for American workers who are in these fields. But I also think it reflects a little bit broader approach to slowing down people coming into this country because I think it takes into account some of the AI that's going to be implemented in the next couple of years. So this requirement applies to all new H-1B petition filings, including for the fiscal year 2027 H-1B lottery. It does not affect petitions filed or approved before September 21, 2025. It also does not affect previously issued H-1B visas or H-1B renewals. So this fee is a one-time payment tied to the submission of a new petition. The federal government is expected to make a recommendation in the spring of next year to extend or renew the $100,000 payment requirement beyond 1 year. So this was quite the news over the weekend. Last Friday afternoon, I left for San Antonio, Texas, for my firm's retreat over the weekend. And I happened to be on the plane with an immigration attorney on a connecting flight. And this news was coming out as we were on the plane. And let me tell you, the immigration attorneys at the retreat, we didn't see any of them all weekend. They were huddled together trying to figure out what to make of this.
Yeah, let's just explore this for a moment because there's a lot of implications to it. And one implication that I get questioned on it and is if someone is on an H-1B visa here in the U.S. but is traveling out of the U.S. back in, is that person have to pay a fee then to come back in, the $100,000 fee, even though they've already been approved on their visa?
Yeah, that was a big topic of discussion by the immigration group over the weekend, and the answer to that was no.
Okay.
But there was confusion over it, which is why the government issued guidance over the weekend on that.
Yeah. And then the other thing is there could be where this has a couple different effects, right? So one is I still need the talent and skill, and because we have the ability to work remotely and at a distance today more than ever before, I'm just going to hire the talent but not bring them in the U.S. under a visa. And then we, in that case, could potentially have, a different challenge of protecting data and proprietary information and so forth. So that would be one thing. The other thing is then, does this force me to develop technology or information or talent hubs in different parts of the world because of the cost to do that in the United States? And does that have a short and or long-term implication to the end game here as well? So those are a couple things that were conversations with some of the folks I spent some time with here in the last few days.
Yeah, big stuff, big questions. We don't know the answers to those. All I can do is share that again, the reported goal by the administration is to stop companies from abusing the H-1B program to the detriment of American workers. That's what the stated goal is.
Yeah, and if and where there's abuse, I'm all in favor of it.
Yep.
From that standpoint.
Agreed.
All right, Bert, what else? You want to do one more topic?
Sure. What do I want to cover? Gosh, again, there's just so much. You know what? I better talk about this one because it could affect all of us in the workforce. So as we know, again, unless you've been living under a rock, that there's a potential government shutdown, federal government shutdown looming in the next week or so. And the White House Budget Office is telling agencies this is a little bit different than prior government shutdowns or threats to shut down. Right now, the White House Budget Office is telling federal agencies to prepare plans not just for a possible government shutdown, but mass firings during a possible government shutdown. And in this memo issued by the White House Budget Office on Wednesday, just yesterday, late yesterday, they told every agency's budget office that there could be cuts in their agencies. And the memo directs these agencies to identify programs and other spending items where discretionary funding is set to lapse October 1 and where no alternative funding source is available. And then it says, quote, such programs are no longer statutorily required to be carried out. So again, that marks a big change from prior shutdowns, prior threatened government shutdowns. In a typical shutdown, about 6 in 10 federal employees are deemed essential and they continue to work. The rest of those, so 4 in 10, are typically deemed non-essential federal employees who are instructed not to work until funding resumes. Those are the people who may be subject to large-scale mass firing of the federal workforce. And so again, an instruction not to work versus you might be fired really could shake things up. And so again, you start
those are
thinking,
two very different messages. Yeah.
Well, and you start thinking about the EEOC, the Department of Labor, the National Labor Relations Board. Work won't get done by those agencies during a government shutdown, but which of their programs are non-essential? And, if the funding lapses for those programs October 1 and those workers are fired from the federal government, that's going to have a significant impact on all of those agencies when the government does resume funding. So just keep your eyes open for this government shutdown. Who knows if it'll happen or not. It typically seems that these government shutdowns, the parties threaten, and then they either pass a temporary funding measure or they get the job done and pass the actual funding bill. Who knows what will happen this time, but there is talk about mass firings at the federal level. And some people think this is a great idea. The government needs to be smaller. Trump ran on less regulation, less government oversight, and this may be a vehicle to make that happen. Other people think that this would be an absolute disaster and could have a measurable impact on economic growth if a huge sector of the federal workforce gets displaced. So where you are on that spectrum, I'm not gonna debate or push one way or the other, but we need to keep an eye on that. We need to keep an eye on this H-1B issue.
Yeah, two very important items. I appreciate that update, Bert. As always, you and the Ogletree team do a fantastic job in helping keep our members informed. So thank you for that. I do want to remind people that we have AAIM's Amy Hart out there, our ChatGPT HR AI assistant to help guide you. If you haven't given Amy a chance to help you out, give her a try. Ask her anything you want to ask her in the space of human resources, and she's going to help guide you forward.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah.
Bill, under Missouri law, just don't ask her to marry you. Okay.
No,
That's
it's not.
That's
It's
illegal
not
under
legal.
Missouri law
Yeah.
as of about a month ago.
We even had to have conversation at this conference, Bert, about are you able to take maternity or paternity leave because your AI love interest and you are starting a family? No joke here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
sick, Phil.
we
That's
may
sick.
have to hold a seminar on how to write our policies related to that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. We've lost our minds. All right. Until then, we'll be back here next week, 7:30 Central Time. Go out and be good to someone in a human way. Take care.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please like it, share it, and make sure it's on your calendar every week. Ask your burning questions anytime and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover. Just go to hrask.org and be sure to leave a review wherever you catch our show to help other HR pros find us as well. We'll see you next week when we discuss what's happening this week at work.